Between my junior and senior years of high school, I discovered research science, and I never looked back. That just captured me as a way of life, and I've been doing it ever since. Between my junior and senior years of college, I went to Cold Spring Harbor. In that summer, two people, Salvador Luria and Cy Leventhal, both relatively new faculty at MIT, were trolling for graduate students to start a program of graduate education in molecular biology, and said, would you like to come to MIT? And basically I didn't apply anywhere else. When I came back as a postdoc, Luria just watched over me the whole time. He's my father in some very real ways. I try to be a dutiful son. In 1970, I did an experiment which had an impact on cancer research. I won the Nobel Prize for it. That, along with the national push to have a Cancer Act and to put a lot of money into cancer research, led Salvador Luria, who was professor of microbiology here, and Jerry Wiesner, who was president, to think very hard about whether there wasn't a place for basic cancer research at MIT. And they decided that there was, and that maybe they could get the money to do that through the National Cancer Act. We needed a building. We found a shell of a building that MIT actually owned, but they were making candy in it. We actually stole chocolates as we walked through the candy factory. And so we got the candy out and we put laboratories in. Luria was fantastic at all of this. He really knew how to build scientific institutions. And so we found ourselves, about 2 years after we began to discuss this, with a functioning center. You have to understand the hubris of molecular biologists. We believed, coming out of the discovery of the structure of DNA and all of the things that then followed from that in the 50s and 60s, that there was no problem in biology we couldn't solve. And there's no problem, certainly no problem in biology that we couldn't illuminate through the use of molecular technologies. We didn't ever doubt our ability to do this. What we were unsure of was what we were going to find, because cancer was an absolute black box at that point. Basically, I tried to construct on the 5th floor the sort of ideal scientific world. We had extremely smart people. We were a magnet for very good students, for very good postdoctoral fellows. It's truly an institution that, had it not existed, research in cancer would not have moved forward with the speed that it has. It seeded the whole scientific community in the United States and elsewhere with people trained to think in the kind of open way that we have been thinking here, and they've done terrific things. So we had a distinguished biology department. From a student's point of view, it was probably the most distinguished biology department in the country. And yet, it couldn't build on that strength to expand, to take into account, for instance, what you could do in developmental biology. So the Whitehead Institute represented an opportunity for MIT to grow without costing anything, because we had enough money to pay for our faculty, our students, our building. Within a year after we opened its doors, it was known as one of the premier biological research venues in the world, because we'd aggregated this remarkable group of people, and their impact was instantaneous. In terms of programs, I'm most proud of the Fellows Program. Some of the very best people in America today in biological sciences came through as fellows. And it turned out to be a proving ground for young faculty at Whitehead, too. I didn't want it to be that. We, in fact, said we were not going to hire these people, but then they were so good and so wonderful that we could not hire them. There is a thrill about shaping an institution and maintaining its excellence. And so when I was approached literally by David Rockefeller
to head the Rockefeller Institute, or then now Rockefeller University. I accepted the job, and I learned how to interact with a lab on an intermittent basis to still continue to be an effective leader, but spend a lot less time at it. And the funny thing about developing young talent, which is all what a laboratory is about, is that what I call benign neglect is about as good a way of training people as any, because then they have to make their own decisions and live with them, and they think them through, and that makes them very powerful people when they leave the lab. My time at Caltech has been very wonderful. It's a great school. It really is a very special place. I was able to run a big campaign and to bring a lot of money in to build some buildings that needed building. The money that went into programs has allowed Caltech to develop strengths in all of its various elements in ways that would not have been possible otherwise. So I feel like I've made a real contribution across the whole board. And I've stayed on there because a professor at Caltech is coddled, treated very well.
I've been doing molecular biology for almost 60 years, which strikes me as miraculous. Can I draw any lessons from this 60-year string of experiments that I've overseen? One thing is that laboratories are the sites of two activities. One is the generation of knowledge, and the other is the training of the next generation of scientists. As a supervisor, I have felt the responsibility to support both perspectives, letting my trainees take the credit they are due for their fantastic work, and as important, letting postdocs take their projects on into their independent careers. For me, that created an opportunity to change the focus of the laboratory as new people arrived. And that is the secret behind the ever-changing scientific challenges we have undertaken. I never could have done it this way if I didn't get a string of the finest scientists to join the laboratory and grasp the opening opportunities ahead of them. That I could lead this extraordinary group of people in this enterprise has been the gift of a lifetime, and I wouldn't have wanted it any other way. I made the decision to devote my life to basic biomedical science before I went to college, and I never wavered from that commitment. Today, to me, represents the culmination of that commitment, and I thank you all for sharing the moment.